It's Kyle here, and I'm excited to talk about the new episode of The Mandalorian, Guns for Hire. But before I get started with my review, if you haven't watched this episode yet, please go watch it first because this review will include spoilers. And with that warning out of the way, let's get started talking about Guns for Hire, which, wow, was this an amazing episode. So fun to watch. I guess give you a little background on how I watch The Mandalorian. I usually get up very early before I go to work. A couple hours earlier than I normally do, so I have time to watch this episode, film my review, and then kind of get it edited and posted and scheduled, I should say, before I head off to work. So that was my routine again this morning. But I enjoyed this episode so much, and I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything, that I immediately rewatched the episode, which is the first time I think I've done that, where I've watched it 2 times in the morning. Gives you an idea of how much I enjoyed this episode of Guns for Hire. I also took very detailed notes on my second watch through because there was so much I wanted to talk about. I decided I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. So my notes are here. So if you see me looking down at something, I kind of did some points I wanted to be sure I talked about. So that's what I'm looking at while I'm doing my review for Guns for Hire, which is definitely my favorite episode of season 3 of The Mandalorian so far. Maybe my favorite episode of The Mandalorian ever. I absolutely love this episode. It was so much fun, but at the same time, it really advanced the overall plot, which is the perfect combo. And not quite as serious as some of the episodes. I think every once in a while it's good to change up between a fun episode and a more serious episode with more dire straits. This was a very, very fun episode of Star Wars, and I absolutely loved it. Before I get started with my detailed review, please hit the like button on this video. I really appreciate the support. Leave a comment in the section below. Let me know what you thought of the episode of Guns for Hire. Did you enjoy it as much as I did? And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the support. With that, let's start talking about Guns for Hire. So obviously, first up, we have the Corrin ship. That design was awesome. The little water setup for the captain was amazing when they came in and fed her the fish. And then when the Imperial ship arrives, how the little platform lowers and she all the water drains away and she's with the rest of her crew. That was a really cool setup. The character designs on all these were amazing. Love seeing all these species on the big screen. Of course, we've seen the Corrin before, but to see them again is awesome. Of course, we're not sure what's going on with the Imperial ship first. First thought it has to be like, oh, is this Moff Gideon? Is somebody connected with him? Is this somebody connected with Thrawn? What's going on here? And then we find out it's our Mandalorian mercenaries that used to be followers of bo-katan. And very interesting little side plot. They decide for that initial mission that a prince of Mon Calamari prince has fell in love with this Corrin captain, and that Mandalorians have been hired to bring this prince back. Very interesting little side story just for of the first minute of the episode. There was no need to give it kind of that detailed of a story. I thought it was a really nice touch and really nice detail to include that much of backstory behind a very short mission that really didn't mean anything else to the episode. So to me, that was just one of the first signs like this episode's going to be really, really cool. Would love more info on this love story between this Mon Calamari prince and this Corrin captain. Who knows, maybe we'll get a book or a comic or something of that. But that was a little amazing start to the episode. Then obviously when we see the Mandalorians get the return of Axe Wolves, which is the first time we've seen him in a long time, so I'm glad to see him back, and it's clear he's become now the new leader of this Mandalorian group that they've left bo-katan. So it's kind of like the first we're finding out that he's the new leader of this group. So then we immediately segue to Bo and Din as they're going to try to track down Bo's old group, and I guess they've got a lead that they are on this very cool planet that we learned is Plazar 15. Plazar 15. So I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I think I am. But immediately when you fly up to this planet, very cool design. I think in the trailers we've seen this planet with dome cities. A lot of people wasn't sure if this was a flashback to something on Mandalore or maybe another Mandalorian settlement. And it's somewhat connected to Mandalorians because they've been hired to protect this planet, but it's not a Mandalorian society that we're seeing. But very cool design, and when we start seeing this city and this planet, I think this is when I really started to fall in love with this episode immediately. The design of the society was amazing. The buildings, the droids, the hyperloop. Then we walk into this big kind of reception, and all the various different species are depicted. All the designs, amazing. This is like peak awesome Star Wars. Just the visual side of it, absolutely amazing. And then when we walk into this room and we hear this voice, and I first thought, like, dear God, is that Jack Black? Is Jack Black in Star Wars? So that's amazing. Then we get closer, we realize, like, oh, and not only is it Jack Black, it's Lizzo, which is two sentences I never thought I would say in Star Wars. These two people are in Star Wars now. That's absolutely amazing. And we kind of quickly get the backstory behind this planet, that Jack Black's character, the captain, is a former Imperial that's went through the New Republic rehabilitation program, and he was sent to this planet to help rebuild it. And he fell in love with the ruler of the planet, the Duchess, who's played by Lizzo. And they kind of fell in love, get married, and are now the rulers of this planet, which even though they're nobility, this planet, they keep on proudly bragging this is a direct democracy, the only direct democracy in the Outer Rim. In fact, when that first phrase was kind of uttered over the radio to them as their ship was coming in, I thought, this is a weird way, and they keep on repeating it. So actually, early off, it was giving me like weird vibes. What it kind of reminded me of is like old original Star Trek episodes where the Enterprise would go to this planet and it would seem like this utopia, and then as the Enterprise was there longer, eventually Kirk and Spock and stuff would figure out, oh, there's a darker side of this utopia, and this society would attempt to attack the crew of the Enterprise, and they would get away and then maybe help put the society back on a better path again. So I kept on expecting, like, there's something going on here. I'll say my initial suspicions were a little bit wrong, because I thought Jack Black and Lizzo's characters were in it and they were going to do something to Din and Bo. That ended up being the case, but that was my initial suspicions. But again, everything going around this little scene was absolutely amazing. Costumes, species, character design, everything. Absolutely loved it. And then we get the kind of the reveal from the captain and the Duchess that their society has been using droids for all their work, and they've been malfunctioning. A lot of these are old Clone War battle droids and stuff like that, which immediately doesn't make Din a very happy person, as we all know his hatred of droids, especially ones connected with the Clone Wars. And then they also reveal that based on their charter, they're not allowed to bring armed forces into their cities, which is why the Mandalorian mercenaries have to stay outside and protect the planet just from invaders and stuff like that. But since Din and Bo just kind of showed up on their own, because they're Mandalorians and it's part of their culture, they're allowed to keep their weapons, which makes them the perfect candidates to investigate this droid problem and solve it. So it's kind of like a very cool, mission of the week type thing, but as we see throughout the episode, it also really advances the overall plot, which is kind of the best of both worlds. So after we leave this, we immediately go to like the security office, and then I think when Christopher Lloyd appeared on screen, I think I actually said, like, oh my God. And I'm watching this episode by myself, so very rarely do you get like a audio reaction from me, because I'm just watching it by myself. Literally, when Christopher Lloyd appeared on the episode, I was like, oh my God, where are all these cameos from? And these are amazing. Really, they pulled out all the awesome cameos for this episode. So Christopher Lloyd's there. We find out he's the head of security. He gives them some background on the droid issues and also why they just can't shut down the droids, because, again, this is direct democracy. So all the citizens have voted you cannot interrupt droid service, because apparently everybody on this society does not work. I guess maybe if you volunteer, so I'm guessing that's what the security officials and stuff like that, maybe they volunteer for work. I don't know, that was never really explained. The one thing it's unclear on, because clearly this planet's very rich. The one thing afterwards that they didn't really address, I was kind of curious about, is like, how is this planet so wealthy, and what is that wealth coming from? It never really explains that side of it. Clearly the droids are working on something, and later we see like a lot of droids at kind of a dock where they're loading stuff. So I don't know if some sort of product is made or mined on this planet, but for some reason they're super rich. Never explained, but it's a super rich place. So I guess that's one little small little nitpick with this episode. But after we leave Christopher Lloyd, which again I never thought I would say in Star Wars, we head to another awesome part of the episode where we go visit the Ugnaughts, who basically refurbish the droids. And I love the little touch here where Bo doesn't really know how to communicate with Ugnaughts very well, and she just kind of addresses them like she would anyone else, and they just ignore her. But Din takes the lessons that he learned from his interactions with Quill, talks to him just the way Quill talked to him, and the Ugnaughts immediately stop and listen and sit down and meet with Din and Bo to kind of talk about that. The Ugnaughts claim that the droid malfunctions are nothing to do with their work because they're so skilled laborers, but based on their investigations, they believe the next, I guess, instance of a droid acting up will happen on the loading docks. There's another little small nitpick. I kind of wanted to find out, like, how did the Ugnaughts figure that out? And if the Ugnaughts had already kind of figured out maybe what the issue was, why weren't they able to solve it? I'm not sure. I would have liked a little bit more like that, or maybe going back, another scene with the Ugnaughts saying, for them to explain what their suspicions were, but, you know, no big deal. Again, a very small little nitpick and otherwise amazing, awesome episode. So we go see the droids, and love seeing the old clone battle droids again from the Clone Wars. Absolutely amazing. Hearing those voices and sounds in live action again are absolutely amazing. We get the little scene where Din figures out which battle droid is acting up. They chase him down and take him out, and that leads them to their clue that this droid was at a droid bar called the Resistor, which is another thing we'd seen in the trailers for the season, a droid bar. I think everybody kept on waiting for it to appear. Well, here we have it, and the droid bar design for the Resistor was amazing. That's like everything in this episode, all the designs for the city was absolutely amazing. The droid bar might be my favorite location I've seen in The Mandalorian this year. In fact, immediately afterwards, I was thinking, like, I hope they put out a Resistor t-shirt. I would absolutely love something branded around that, because that location was absolutely amazing. So again, we get Bo and Din trying to figure out what's going on here. Obviously, Din is not the most effective communicator with droids based on his hatred of droids, but they do eventually get the bartender to talk to him and explain that there's this substance. Let me look this up. Apathy, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, that the droids drink at the bar, and it's kind of like a lubricant, but also refreshes their processes and stuff like that, which is kind of a very cool little fact I guess we've just learned about droids. I'm not sure if that's ever been brought up before in Star Wars. If it has, I don't really remember it, but it's kind of a little thing to learn what droids do on their own for maintenance purposes, and that they go to hang out at this cool bar and listen to cool techno music is absolutely amazing. So once they find out through the bartender that basically all the droids who've been acting up had been served a specific batch of the substance. So then they go to kind of like, I would say, like a medical examiner for droids, I would guess. And they kind of do a little substance examination from the battle droid that they just had taken down earlier. And they find out there's nanobots in there that have been, I guess, causing the droids to act up, and they were acquired by Christopher Lloyd's Christopher Lloyd's character, the captain, which I was kind of happy. Well, I guess I was surprised because I was expecting it to be somehow connected to Jack Black and Lizzo's character, but getting to see Christopher Lloyd in the episode again made me very happy. We get a very cool little monologue from Christopher Lloyd when he's confronted by Bo and Din, which again just shows you how awesome of an actor Christopher Lloyd is. Just give me more Christopher Lloyd, please. And we learned he's kind of like a little separatist. He's a very loyal follower still of Count Dooku. He believes that side was right, and that's why he's kind of messing with the droids. So the one thing, I'm not exactly clear what his plan was. I'm not sure if he was trying to take control of the droids to kind of reestablish a droid army so the planet would have more protection, because it's clearly he wants nothing to do with the Republic. So he kind of wants them to be independent. So maybe by overcoming the droids' programming, it'll allow this planet to be more independent in his mind, and they can just ignore the Republic demands and stuff like that. Not exactly sure what his overall plan was, but clearly he's a little separatist, and maybe just his hatred of the Republic just was causing him to try to sabotage this this new society that's being built in the wake of the Empire leaving. I love that as he's giving his monologue, Bo just shoots him, which I thought was absolutely amazing. And then Bo gives a little line like politics, which is very much politics in Star Wars. Took me back to the Phantom Menace with the very aggressive negotiating skills of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and the opening of that movie. So that's politics for you in Star Wars, which is a political science degree holder from college and definitely a political nerd. It's very interesting to see how politics are conducted in Star Wars. But then we get kind of a little cool scene at the end where Din and Bo kind of present their findings to Lizzo and Jack Black's character. They get a key to the city. Grogu is knighted. I was actually expecting Lizzo as a kind of a role just to kind of like maybe attempt to like purchase Grogu from Din, because a lot of people tend to think him as more of a pet than like a individual. But I guess it's another way to kind of show you that Lizzo and Jack Black's characters were actually good people, and even though she actually loves Grogu like everybody else does, she lets him go a little wave. I love that Grogu waved back. And I did forget to mention, I love the little game they were playing as Din and Bo were walking in. That game was awesome. And I love the fact that Grogu was helping Lizzo's character win, even though I don't think Lizzo really realized that, but I thought that was a really nice touch. And also shows you that Grogu, since this person was a good person and wanted to help them out. So that's very, very cool. The entire time I was thinking Grogu looked like he was having the best time in the world. It almost felt like he was like an amusement park, and this was just all fun for him. He loved the ride in the Hyperloop, all the species they met, getting to kind of hang out with Lizzo and be fed little treats by her. This was like Grogu living his best life, so absolutely amazing. But then with all this, I thought maybe the episode was going to end and we would get the confrontation between the Mandalorians in the next episode. Nope, we get it here, which is really advances the overall plot of the series. Bo confronts Axe Wolves and basically wants to take back over this group, and Axe, they don't voluntarily do that, so Bo challenges Axe to combat, and they agree. We have a very cool fight scene, and Bo's able to show off her skills and pretty quickly is able to defeat Axe and kind of take back control of the group. But even with that, Axe has a line like, "Why are you challenging me? You should be challenging him." Zealot, I believe is how he phrased it, with the Darksaber. Take the Darksaber away from him and lead our people. And then Din basically goes over and offers Bo the Darksaber, and she refuses it. And basically says, you have to win it in combat. And that's when Din turns around, and I think what everybody thought after the episode of Minds of Mandalore goes through the thing that every Star Wars fan thought. It's like, I was captured by an individual. Bo rescued me and got the Darksaber to free me and defeated the person who defeated me. Doesn't mean that she is the rightful holder of the Darksaber, which again, I think is what every Star Wars fan thought when they saw that episode. And Axe Wolves kind of thinks for a second and is like, well, is this a loophole? You kind of see this man like, is this a legit loophole where we can get Bo to have the Darksaber away from this guy that we don't like? And he's just like, yes, that means she is wanted in combat. Din hands Bo the saber, and we get this awesome visual at the end where Bo likes the Darksaber. And episode over, best episode of the season, and talking it through, I think this definitely is my favorite episode of The Mandalorian ever. Guns for Hire was absolutely awesome. Loved it. Again, the perfect combination of a mission of the week, but also advancing the overall plot. Some of the coolest location designs I've ever seen in Star Wars. So many species. This might be set a record for the most species in any of the live action Star Wars TV series we've seen so far, just in scenes. It's amazing. The droid bar location was awesome. All the different droids we saw. This unique society we've visited in Plaza 15. Just amazing. Like I said, I had a couple small little nitpicks about just wanting a little bit more information or understanding people's plans, but nothing that really took away from my enjoyment of the episode. Absolutely love this episode, and so excited to see where this leads. Obviously now Bo has this huge Mandalorian force with her. I'm guessing in the next episode we'll maybe see this group meet up with the Children of the Watch. It'll be interesting to see how these two groups interact now, if Bo's able to kind of really unify them, or if we see any little infighting or resistance when they join up. But hopefully with the leadership of the Armor, who seems in favor of this type of merger, and Bo with the Darksaber, that we'll have this unified Mandalorian force, and maybe we're going back to Mandalore pretty soon. I'm not sure if we'll do this next episode or what, but I'm very excited about what lays in store for the rest of the Mandalorian this season after this amazing episode, Guns for Hire. So again, I'm sure this was a long review, but I was excited to talk about it. But if you enjoyed this episode and my review of it, please hit that like button. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below of this episode and all the awesome cameos, locations, everything. Let me know everything. Comment away. Anyway, thanks for the support. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching this very long review. I'll see you next time, and may the force be with you.